Hello, I'm Denver Henderson for the Williams County Public Library, continuing our series, Lay Me Down to Rest, the Cemeteries of Williams County. And we are still in Florence Township, and today we are at Leggitt Cemetery. Leggitt Cemetery is also Leggitt Cemetery. Both spellings are used, L-I-G-G-E-T-T and L-E-G-G-E-T-T, but if you're going to find a grave, it's under Leggitt. It was also at one time called Gibbons Cemetery because the people who owned the original property were Frederick Gibbons, and he donated it in 1854 to Florence Township for cemetery purposes, and it's been a cemetery ever since. Intriguingly, though, the first two burials here were Andrew and Catherine Ferrier. Andrew died in 1845, and Catherine died in 1847, so it was obviously a burial ground prior to Mr. Gibbons giving the property to Florence Township. I'm standing at the family plot of William and Jane Gillis. The Gillis family came here in 1845, and on this stone it says that settled in Florence Township in 1845. They were one of the first pioneer families in this township. Their family plot here in Leggitt Cemetery was very elaborate at one time. There are still evidences of the fact that it was covered entirely with concrete, and it had a cast iron fence around it. The cast iron fence was probably taken during the scrap iron drive during the Second World War, and now the concrete has deteriorated. Another interesting story in the Gillis family plot is the story of James F. Gillis, the son of William. He served his country in the Civil War. Now we might think that most of the casualties of that war were battlefield casualties, but there are just as many casualties to disease. But poor James succumbed to tuberculosis. He probably contracted it here and carried it to the army with him, and he died in 1863 in Tennessee. Of course, we had to visit the grave of the Palmer family, Asher Palmer and his wife, because this is a fine example of what I've talked about before, the Woodsmen of America tombstones, which were shaped like tree trunks. This has the unique feature of also having an open book on the front. Now, there is nothing here to denote a plaque that says Woodsmen of America. However, on this side, there is a small hatchet that is part of the tombstone, and that is another signification that he was a member of the Woodsmen of America. Also, the two markers beside it, saying mother and father, are shaped like small logs. Now, if you'll remember from past, it also has the three-pronged fern on the front, the three of them meaning the Trinity, and ferns meaning eternal life. This is a prime and wonderful example of Woodsmen of America tombstones. Many of us who visit cemeteries are used to finding the graves of children and infants. This is the grave of Mary Eliza Matthews, and it has a particularly unique tombstone. It is a small child in repose. It's made of marble, and it's a little girl with her arm over her stomach. It is an extremely well-preserved example, and it is in Leggitt Cemetery, and if you get a chance to come out and see it, it is a very wonderful example of an alternative to the usual lamb on a child's stone. Mary Eliza must have been very loved by her family to get such an elaborate monument. For the Williams County Public Library, I'm Denver Henderson. Stay safe, stay healthy. I bid you peace.